Flowers and flower bouquets are for all kinds of occasions, but I really don't like these plastic wraps they come in. Even though paper wraps are a really good option, I wanted to make something unique and I came up with this beautiful fabric cover for the flowers. It's more like a fabric casing where you can place flowers and then wrap them as a small bouquet of flowers. If you already have fabric in hand, this will also be a good economical option. Flowers are more on the expensive side, and from one medium-sized bouquet you can easily make up to 4 to 5 small bouquets like this. So this will be a great idea if you are planning a small function or you are looking for something like a teacher's gift for the upcoming Valentine's Day. Change the size if you want to make it into a bigger bouquet if you want, and it's totally depend on your purpose. I did a bit of simple embroidery at the front, and you can even embroider the names of your loved ones too. I'm sure this will definitely level up the experience for the receiver, and to be honest, I'm really in love with this project. Now get your things ready and let's get started. First of all, materials and tools. You'll need a fabric with a bit of weight, and mine is a cotton canvas fabric. If you only have lightweight fabric, you may need to use some interfacing for the back layer of the case. To tie the bow knot, you'll need 2 straps measuring about 16 to 18 inches long. You can make your own fabric straps or you can use simple ribbon like I do. Now if you're planning on doing some hand embroidery, you'll need an embroidery hoop, a hand needle, embroidery floss and a fabric marking pen. Other than that, you'll also need pins or clips, a pair of scissors and a sewing machine with a coordinating thread color. The next step is to make the template, and there are only 2 template pieces we need. Let me show you how to do that. You'll only need a A4 paper, a ruler, a pencil or a pen and a paper cutting scissors for that. Then cut a piece of paper measuring 7 by 11 inches in size. A regular A4 paper also measures 11 inches in length, and that will make things easier. Place your paper like this and then mark 1 inch away from the 2 ends of the bottom side. Then place the ruler connecting one of the marked points and the far corner of the directly opposite side like this. Draw a straight line connecting those 2 points and then do the same with the other side as well. After that, cut along on those 2 drawn lines. The larger piece will be your first template piece, which works as the back layer for the casing. As you can understand, this will be the orientation of the cover, wider at the top and narrow at the bottom. Now to create the second template piece, mark 4 inches down from the wider top side. Mark at least 2 points so you can easily connect them later. Now draw a dashed line connecting those 2 previous points using a ruler. Then fold the bigger template along the dashed line and you will see 2 small triangular pieces showing to the outside. Fold those back without showing to the outside, and now this will be your second template piece. There is nothing complicated here. The second template is a shorter version of the first one. As we now have both pieces ready, let's get into cutting the fabric pieces. You will need 2 fabric pieces from each template, and the easiest way to do that is to fold the fabric into 2 layers first. Also make sure the right sides of the fabric are facing each other to keep things easier when going forward. Starting with the first larger template, place it on top of both layers and then use a few pins to keep that in place. Make sure you pin it to both fabric layers. After that, carefully cut around the template piece. As you now know the basics of making this pattern, I think you can now design it with bigger sizes and different shapes. Finally, remove the pins and you'll get the required 2 pieces from the first template. Now moving on to the second smaller template, first remind yourself to prepare that by folding it along the dashed line and then hide away the 2 small triangular parts showing to the outside. After that, it'll be the same steps. Pin the template to the 2 fabric layers underneath and then carefully cut around it. Finally, remove the pins and at this point, all the fabric pieces are ready, a total of 4 pieces. Now let me show you how it's going to be placed at the final project. The smaller one goes on top of the bigger one like this. This next step is totally optional if you are not interested in hand embroidery. As you saw in the introduction, I'm going to do a simple hand embroidery all over the front layer, and for that first I'm going to draw the letter V shape on the right side of one of the fabric pieces for the front layer. There is no particular order to it, but make sure to leave some space at all 4 sides. Otherwise, your embroidery design may catch up while sewing in the coming steps. I'm only sticking with this simple design, but you can embroider any design you prefer. Even a name or a small quote would be nice too. After that, set the fabric to the embroidery hoop. For that, unscrew the hoop and place the fabric on top of the smaller hoop. Then place the bigger hoop on top and cover the smaller hoop. Pull the fabric from all the sides and tighten the screw to make it into a finely stretched fabric. Since this is a simple design, you may not necessarily need a hoop, but it sure makes things easier because it makes the fabric properly stretched. Now thread your needle and make a knot at the end. I'm using all 6 strands here and the number of thread counts you use is totally up to you. From the back of the fabric, come up at the middle point of the letter V. Pull the thread all the way. Then go back down at the same point you came earlier. Pull the thread from the other side till it forms a loop like this. Then come up at the far end of either one of the 2 lines of the letter V and make sure you are also going through the previously formed loop at the same time. Now gently pull the needle until it forms a petal or teardrop shape like this. To secure this shape, now you need to make a small stitch by going back down, and as you can understand, you need to include that loop part in that short stitch in order to keep the shape. Finally, pull the thread all the way from the other side of the fabric, and this stitch is known as lazy daisy stitch in hand embroidery. If you want more detailed instructions on that, please make sure to check out the tutorial and I'll leave the link in the description. After this point, it'll be the same stitch over and over again. The beautiful thing is that by creating 2 lazy daisy stitches in a shape of letter V, it will resemble a small heart shape. As we are closer to Valentine's Day, I thought this would be a simple and easy way to create something for that as well. I chose red and pink embroidery thread colors to complete this design, and you may need to unscrew and screw the hoop again several times in order to move from one part of the fabric to the other. This step will take some time, but it surely adds more value to our project. I mean, hand embroidery is not the only thing you can do. You can add some beads, do a fabric painting, or simply use a printed fabric instead of a plain canvas fabric. Whenever you are running out of thread or you are simply at the end of the embroidery design, turn over to the wrong side of the fabric and make a couple of knots to secure the stitch. Finally, trim the thread. With that done, the embroidery step is completed and you can carefully unscrew the hoop without damaging any of the stitches. This will be the front layer of the bouquet cover, and now place the other piece for the front on top and align with each other. Also make sure two right sides are facing each other. Then use a few pins to keep the two layers in place for the next sewing step. We need to leave some space for turning the right side out after sewing them together. For that, leave about 2 to 3 inches of space at the top side of the front layer. I'm going to mark that space like this, and after that, starting at one of the marked points, sew all the way around until you reach the other marked point. Same goes for the back layer of the cover as well. Place the two pieces aligned and keep the right sides facing each other. Use a few pins to keep the pieces in place and then leave or mark about 2 to 3 inches of space at any of the sides to turn the right side out later. I'm going to mark it on the top side. Like I showed you with the previous one, starting from one of the marked points, sew all the way around until you reach the other marked point. Sew straight, and I'm leaving a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Do a little back stitch at the beginning to securely start the sewing. When you reach a corner, stop the sewing and raise the foot. Then pivot and lower the foot. You can continue sewing after. There are several ways to complete this project. You can also use only one fabric piece for the front layer and first connect that to the back layer as a pocket and then assemble everything in one go. But I went with 2 fabric pieces for both layers for several reasons. One, it gives a more steadiness to the bouquet, and second, I didn't want the stems of the flowers tangling with the embroidery threads at the back of the fabric. There are different ways to complete the same project, and there is no right or wrong way to do it when it comes to creating things. Coming back to the project, do a little back stitch at the end and finally trim the thread short. Now it's time to turn the right side out, but before doing that, trim off the all 4 corners of the both front and back layers. Be careful not to damage any of the stitches while you are doing so. This will reduce the bulky areas and give you smooth corners once turned right side out. After that, turn the right side out using the opening we left earlier. There is nothing to be worried about when turning the back layer, but be careful with the front layer since it has some hand embroidery work. Try to pull out all the sides and corners as much as you can and then use a small rod with a blunt end to poke out narrow corners. Even with that, be careful not to damage the fabric or poke holes by poking too hard. Now you can hand press everything nicely or even iron it over to give a proper press. I'm going to iron both layers, and when it comes to the unsewn opening, iron the seams on that area towards the inside and it will make things easier while sewing. This ironing step also allows me to get rid of those fabric markings from the embroidery. I used a heat erasable fabric marking pen, and it allows to get rid of all those markings by simply ironing it. Anyways, I'm not going to directly iron the embroidery work. Instead, I'll iron it from the back of the front layer. Next, sew along the top side of the front layer to enclose the opening we left. Make sure you are properly enclosing the unsewn area by sewing closer to the edge. Do a little back stitch at the beginning and sew straight. Do a little back stitch when you reach the other end of the top side to securely end the sewing. At this point, we are all done with the front layer and we can start assembling next. Now don't forget, we still have an unsewn area on the back layer and we can easily cover that while sewing these two layers together. Place the front layer on top of the back layer and align the bottom sides like this. As you can understand, the side with the embroidery work has to be on the front. Next, place the two ribbons in between the two layers and closer to the top side of the front layer. Keep about half an inch of the ribbons towards the inside, and I used the pinking shears to cut the ends of the ribbons to reduce fraying. But you can also slightly burn the ends of the ribbons like the old-fashioned way. Then use a few pins or clips to keep the ribbons and fabric layers in place. We are only one step away from completing this project, and even though it took me some time to explain everything to you, it won't take much time to complete this on your own. Finally, start at any point and sew all the way around until you reach the starting point. That will assemble everything together and also will enclose the unsewn opening we left at the back layer too. As always, do a little back stitch at the beginning and sew straight closer to the edge. Make sure the unsewn opening is properly enclosed while going through that area. Remove the pins as you go and keep things slow while you are going through areas with several fabric layers. I thought of this project for Valentine's Day, but flowers are for all seasons and so is this project. We have more sewing projects for Valentine's Day on this channel, and please make sure to check those out as well. When you reach the starting point, do a little back stitch to securely end the sewing. Finally, trim the thread short, and now let's see how good it looks with a bunch of flowers in it. I personally love everything about this project, and I truly hope you do too. When tying the bow, I recommend you wrap the ribbon from the back first and then tie the knot at the front. It helps to keep things more stable that way. Please leave a comment and let me know what you think of this, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well. If you get a chance to make one of these, do me a favor and tag me on Facebook or Instagram. I would love to see your work. Thank you all for watching, and I'll join you with another creative project like this.